Hello, and welcome to the SAF Audiovisual Cast, where we, SAF, connect and share information from top university officials, faculty, and administration directly with SAF students and parents. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, William, with SAF and IES here in Chicago. Our guest today is the Study Abroad Manager with Study and Work Away at Edinburgh Global for the University of Edinburgh. Sophie Conway, thanks for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So you are an Edinburgh alum, a study abroad alum, if I'm not mistaken, and you have both studied in France and Canada. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm half French, so that's my sort of French connection growing up. But I studied abroad in Canada as part of my psychology degree at Edinburgh. So yeah, I'm an alumnus of the University of Edinburgh as well. So I think that's probably where I first started getting interested in supporting international education and the study abroad experience.
Wonderful. So I guess that tells us a little bit about some of the connections you have for what brought you into the international education space. Can you tell us a little bit about your role as well?
Yeah, so I'm study abroad manager in the Study and Work Away team, which is based in Edinburgh Global, and we manage the visiting student population that come to the university. So we're responsible for providing support to our students from their first inquiry. We support them through the application process, and also once the students are here, and even when they become an alumnus of the University of Edinburgh. So, but the bulk of the support that we provide is at the pre-arrival stage is to support students in coming to Edinburgh and sort of explaining a lot more about what the experience at Edinburgh is going to be like.
So it's a famous city, and certainly a famous dialect as well, right? Can you tell us first maybe a little bit about the city?
Yes, of course. Edinburgh is a really historic city. It's a very old city, and it's very beautiful. I think when our visiting students come here, they often say to us that they just want to sort of take pictures of all the buildings because it's so beautiful. And I think if students are maybe fans of the Harry Potter series, sometimes they often say that a lot of the city reminds them of the Harry Potter because J.K. Rowling wrote a lot of her book here, so there's a lot of sort of inspiration in Edinburgh. And actually the University of Edinburgh is located in the heart of the city, so we are actually sort of make up the city, if you like. But it's a very cosmopolitan city, and we have one of the world's largest arts festivals that happens in August. So normally that's when we have performers from all over the world that descend upon Edinburgh, and they are in all of our venues across Edinburgh, including the University of Edinburgh venues. So it's a really sort of vibrant city, and it has a sort of, I guess, a sort of small town feel to it in a sense, because you can walk around everywhere. So it's quite a small city, but it's also got everything you'd sort of, I guess, look for in a city, all the amenities that you need, and the museums and all the cultural festivals that happen. So it's definitely an interesting city, and it's the capital city of Scotland as well. So.
Sure. Now you just referenced a famous alum, one of many. I'm going to mention a few more. Adam Smith, Charles Darwin, Arthur Conan Doyle, the Sherlock Holmes creator, and of course, as we just said, J.K. Rowling.
Yes.
What makes the university so special? And maybe can you tell us a little bit more in detail about the school?
So the University of Edinburgh. It's a very historic institution. So it dates back a long time. If I remember, I think it's back to 1583. I think, and we are a very high-ranking institution. So the University of Edinburgh is consistently ranked within the top 50 universities in the world. I think in the latest QS rankings, we're in the top 20. So, and that's really because of the research power of Edinburgh. And we're a very international institution as well. So I think that's also another reason why we're very well known across the world, is because we have one of the most diverse international student populations, and we're over 40% of our student population, which is our international students. So we have, to put that in perspective, we have around 41,000 students in total. So just over 40% of those are studying at Edinburgh. So I think that makes Edinburgh quite unique. We have over 160 different nationalities represented. And then I think something else that's really special about Edinburgh is we've got one of the oldest and most active student unions in the UK. So that means that there's loads of student societies that students can get involved in. There's just so much going on in campus, and actually this sort of the student experience is something that I think at Edinburgh is very special. It's very unique to the university and what we offer. And the societies are just so much fun to get involved in.
Maybe we could start with how the university supports students.
Yeah, I think actually when we do our online information sessions, what we try our best to do is manage students' expectations, because I think what's really important is that it's definitely challenging for students, I think, at first when you arrive, because you're arriving in a new city, you're adapting to a whole new teaching style, a new environment, sometimes a new culture, you're having to make new friends and learn how things work. And so I think at first, it's perfectly normal for a student to feel overwhelmed or miss home and wonder how they're going to manage. But something about the University of Edinburgh is we have a lot of support available for students. And we have a lot of recommendations as well as things that they can do to help themselves, help them cope with all the change and really adapt and integrate themselves into the student community. So I think one of the main things that I always suggest to students is definitely, I mentioned the student societies, but getting involved in the student societies. And in case we use sort of different terminology, it's a society is like a club, that focuses around a particular interest. So we have societies, for example, a business society or an engineering society, and but we also have sort of more wacky and weird and wonderful societies. So we have the chocolate loving society or the tea loving society, or we talked about Harry Potter, the Harry Potter loving society. I believe we've even got a society where students play Quidditch in the meadows. So it's almost guaranteed that you will find a society that is just right for you, like as a student, if not many. And they're the most welcoming place, the place where you will find and meet students from all over the world, and really get the chance to gain new skills. And I think that for me, even when I joined the University of Edinburgh, was one of the best ways for me to integrate into campus life. But in terms of the support, we also offer a lot of academic support and welfare support. So academically speaking, students are, particularly if you're a visiting student, for example, you might be used to how things work back at your home university and how sort of the assessment style works, the essay writing style. So we have a lot of online resources to help students with that, but we've also got an Institute for Academic Development, and they're sort of dedicated to helping students particularly with their study skills, their techniques. They can have one-to-one academic consultations with someone where they can work through a study plan, or they can go to study workshops that'll help them with that. And then we have also English language courses to help students who are not necessarily native English speakers. And the Student Union also offer a peer proofreading scheme, which is where students volunteer and are trained to check the grammar of a piece of essay writing and check sort of the wording, and they can offer some help in that, so that students feel like they're not at a disadvantage in that respect. So we try and support students in many different ways, but there's so much support there, especially in welfare. We have a student counselling service, and also an advice place, which is a place where students can go and ask questions about anything. It's actually somewhere where you can get advice on any topic, and the advisors there will do their best to help you. And if they don't know the answer, they'll look into it for you. So I think there's so much more I could talk about, but I don't want to go on too much.
Certainly. Well, a wonderful answer. And I don't think anyone will easily forget the chance to play Quidditch with their fellow classmates.
It's an interesting sight, I have to tell you. And it's when I have seen it happen, it's in the meadows, which is a a large sort of public park that's just beside the central campus. It's a lovely place for sort of going walking and running as well. And that's where they'll probably be playing if you see them around.
So as an alum and a faculty member, we'd love to hear your favorite place or one of your favorite places on campus.
I find this question quite hard because there's quite a number of places that I like, but I think one of the places that has the most significance for me, and I think for a lot of students, is a place that's called TV at Row House. It's a student union building, and it's got sort of Gothic architecture, but it's such an interesting building. It's got sort of twisting and turning staircases. It's got a debating chamber and different halls in there. It's got a library bar, and which is sort of a restaurant / bar in an actual sort of library setting. And I studied at the university for 4 years, and I've worked at the university for I think about 7 years, and I still go into that building now and I find a new room, because it's like there's sort of hidden rooms. It's you never quite know where you are in the building, but it's a hub for students. It's where they go and they can just meet others. They can go and have a coffee. They can chat with their friends. But there's so many student nights that are hosted there, and student societies host all their events and social gatherings. So I think it's a place that all students will know. If you say TVET, we'll meet at TVET, that's the place that students will know about, and they'll be happy to go there. And it's somewhere that has lovely memories for me as well. So.
Okay, now I believe we spoke a little bit on this topic already, but I'd love to hear more from you on how an international student or a visiting student can integrate into campus life. And how those students, another area would be how those students join normal classes in the broader university.
Yeah. So for the most part, a visiting student will be in classes with students who are full degree seeking students, home students, international students. They'll be integrated into all classes in that respect. I think when students first arrive, if they're in university accommodation, which they would normally be, the accommodation services do their best to provide a sort of mix of students in accommodation. So they might try and mix with some home students, some international students, and so a chance for students to get to know people from different places. And then they have a residence life team who organise sort of activities, and those are really important quite right in the beginning when students are just new to the country, and they have chances to meet each other, and an RA that'll guide them and help them if they've got any issues. And then when students are starting with their classes, I think at first, it can be daunting, particularly if you're going into classes where perhaps students already know each other. If you're going into a third year course, you might worry that it's more difficult to make friends, but actually, overall, it's a very friendly student population, and I think that as long as you're active in speaking with other students and really showing that you want to sort of interact with people are actually really open. They're really friendly. Scotland in general is considered a very friendly country, and I think that students will notice that, and they will find it easy to integrate in that sense. And I mentioned the student societies, but if they're ever feeling like they're struggling to connect with someone on a particular interest, or maybe they want to find people who are like them, that's one of the best places to go to a society where you'll find like-minded people. You'll find if you're interested in entrepreneurship, or that was a society that I went to something, or if you're really enjoying a particular food or a particular activity or a particular sport, then you will find a society that has people who think have the same hobbies as you. And I think that's one of the greatest ways to integrate yourself into campus life. But I think it is something that students have to, they have to be willing to make the first step sometimes, in particularly in class time, to really, if they're to sort of put aside any worries and just have the confidence to go up and talk to people, because it's a very welcoming student community, and it's, as I say, it's such a diverse student community as well, that we have students from all over the world here. So it's it shows that we are very diverse in our thinking.
So you spoke on the topic just moments ago. It would be very interesting for us to hear a little bit more on the qualities or characteristics of students. What characteristics match a future Edinburgh student or a visiting student?
I think we're looking for someone who has a strong academic interests in particular subject areas. So, for example, when a student's applying and they're writing their personal statement, we're looking for them to have really, I guess, researched the university, but shown what areas they are particularly interested in, where they want insight, and if they've looked into some of the research that the university is undertaking. There's particular academics that they've read their works, and I think that's one of the best ways to really show their interest in the university. But we're looking for students to have a genuine and motivation for coming to Edinburgh. But I think overall, as long as they have a good academic record, they're sort of pursuing additional activities, and they have a strong motivation for coming to Edinburgh, I think those are excellent to be sort of highlighting in their application.
Okay, great. Now, obviously, at this moment, we're doing a Zoom. One of the reasons for this is because the whole world has gone to work from home. COVID-19 is affected everywhere. The effects have been different in different areas. Can you tell us a little bit about its effects in Edinburgh and the university specifically?
So currently, of course, I'm working from home just now, and as are most of the University of Edinburgh staff, and it's been a difficult and a very different time than we've been used to, but I know that that's the same for everyone. Edinburgh is at the moment very different to what it has been. We were in lockdown since March, and but now things are starting to ease up. Restrictions are starting to be lifted, and things are looking better. The prospect is so far looking better, and the University of Edinburgh has been closely liaising with the government, the NHS. We're following the developments of COVID-19 and sort of adapting to that. So at the moment, we are obviously all working from home, but the university does plan to be open in September, and will be welcoming students to Edinburgh. So what the university is planning is a hybrid teaching approach, which it means that if students can come in person, then they will be taught in person with appropriate safety measures in place, social distancing, whatever is required at that time. And if they can't make it on campus, then they will be able to connect virtually with their education here in Edinburgh. And I should say students who are here in person will also be still connecting virtually as well for aspects of their course. So yeah, we're finding ways for students to still stay connected, still receive the same high quality education that they would get at Edinburgh, just in different times and in different ways.
Now, we've covered a little bit about how learning offerings have changed and the outlook for the fall semester. Can you share any perspectives on the future further down the road?
As in terms of sort of semester next year onwards?
Perhaps, yeah, next year, or if the learning model will return to where it was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's probably the aim at some point, but I think at the moment we don't yet. I think the university is just it's following the developments closely to make sure that we're adapting to the times. And I think what what this pandemic has already taught us is that so much can change in such a short period of time. For this academic year, we're adopting a hybrid model, so that but we are hoping that students, and we would like students to come to Edinburgh as soon as they can come in person, because we still realise that there's value in them being here in person. But for as long as they need to be back home, and for as long as they can't come here, hopefully they can come later in the semester, but they will connect with us virtually, and they'll still be able to make friends, still be able to talk to other students. And what the hope is that when they can come to Edinburgh, they will be able to sort of just pick up from where they left off. They'll be able to talk to the same students that they've been talking to online, and it will all seem familiar to them, and not, they'll already, that big change of having to adapt will hopefully be lessened, because they'll have already been studying with us virtually. So that the university is finding sort of creative ways to sort of stay in touch with students.
Understood. Thank you for that. As I mentioned, today we're speaking with our students and potential students and parents in China. The university has, of course, many international connections, as well as connections to China specifically. Could you share with us a little bit more?
Yeah, so in terms of our connections with China, something that I actually think is quite interesting is that the university was, it was the first university in Europe to admit a Chinese student. So that was back in sort of the late 1800s. And we have very strong research links with a lot of high-ranking universities in China. So, for example, Peking University, Tsinghua. I don't say the names right. I know I don't, but we have a lot of strong connections, and we also have the Confucius Institute, which is one of the most successful institutes in the world, and it's responsible for promoting cultural, educational, economic ties between China and Scotland. And something else that's quite interesting and very sort of current is there's a new award that the University of Edinburgh has started, which is the Being Edinburgh Award in 2020, and it's been awarded to Zhong Nangshan, who is a doctor, and he's being recognised for his work in leading the COVID-19 panel. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of him, and also he identified the SARS virus in 2003. So, and he's obviously a distinguished alumni from Edinburgh. And in terms of our sort of Chinese student population, we're the top in Scotland and the top 10 in the UK for the number of Chinese students. And we have over 5,000 students from across China currently studying with us. And of course, we have a lot of Chinese alumni as well, a very active groups across China, for example, in Beijing, Shanghai, Wuhan, but there's many different areas where they're very active. I think we've got about 11,500 alumni from China.
So one of the things we like to do within our podcast series here is talk about food. This is personally one of my favorites, and specifically, we'd love to hear your favorite Chinese dish, if you're willing to share with us.
Oh goodness. I don't know. I'm just having a think. Because my worry, if I'm honest, is I think when we get Chinese food here, and I'll say this from a perspective of what I've heard from my friend who's Chinese who lives here, is the food that we often get can be very different to the food that people actually restaurants in China have. And so I worry, because I don't think that it's probably even the names or even the authentic names of Chinese food. So I really don't know. I mean, I've had Chinese dumplings when I was at my friend's house, which I absolutely loved, and that was for Chinese New Year. They were fantastic. So I think that that's probably what I would go with, because I know that those were authentic. And I also like the fact that we were sort of celebrating Chinese New Year, which is something that's so significant to in China. And so I was able to learn more about that. And I think that's something also just to say about the University of Edinburgh, is that we like to celebrate cultural events from around the world, so that students still feel connected back home. So, and we have an international exchange. It's called an International Exchange Student Society, but it's for all sort of international students, and they do different events throughout the year, and one of them is, of course, Chinese New Year. So there's a lot going on there, where students get to have their traditional food.
Now, away from food for a moment, students and parents are faced with a lot of different concerns at this moment. Do you have anything to share with them directly? Any comments you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think it's a worrying time, and it's a difficult time. I think it's a difficult time for students who are trying to think what they want to do. And I think during these times, it's difficult to think about having an international experience, because we just don't know what that looks like right now. But what I'd like to offer reassurances is that we're trying to find creative ways to keep connected with students, and that the university is doing everything that they can to make sure that studies here in Edinburgh will be safe. Students will be supported in accommodation services. They're making sure that their accommodation, it will meet the guidelines, will be safe as well. Where it's needed, they're reducing numbers in accommodation. They're having one-way systems. If quarantining is required, then that will be supported. Students will be provided with catering, and that's actually, we can demonstrate that, because when COVID-19 pandemic, when it sort of reached the UK, that was sort of March time, when we had a lot of our students here, and when students needed to self-isolate in accommodation, that's when accommodation were supporting those students. They were checking in on them. They were providing them with food. We were helping students when they needed to leave Edinburgh. They were getting refunds on their accommodation leases. So where we've always been flexible with students in these difficult times. And what will not change is the education that students will get by coming to Edinburgh. They will receive the same valuable experience that they would have got, and hopefully they will also get the chance to experience being in Edinburgh, even if it is a little bit later down the line. But they'll be learning from world-class academic staff across the university, wherever they are, and that's something that they will always get those skills that they need for the employment market, and to develop themselves, and that will remain the same, and things will eventually go back to normal. But in the meantime, we will have to work differently, but that doesn't mean that things won't work well. They will. It's just the university is just adapting, and the city itself is too.
Thanks so much for your time today.
No, thanks very much for having me.